What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another NBA Rundown brought to you courtesy of Run Pure Sports and Run Pure Bets. Joined today by JSU. And JSU, you had your work cut out for you yesterday navigating the final countdown with a 13-game slate. What did you think of the NBA last evening?
Yeah, what a slate. I mean, that was a monster of a slate. I wish that the NBA could not do this where we get 3-game slates 2 times in a week and we get a 13-game monster slate. Like, how hard is it to just give us like a 6 to 10 game slate or a 5 to 10 game slate every single day? Like, would that be hard spread? And then of course, like on football Sunday, there's like 7 or 8 games.
Right.
How does that work? What?
Oh,
How in the world on
quick
a football
explanation. You want to know
Sunday?
why that happened?
Yeah, well, why?
3 letters, TNT. They
Oh, there
wanted
you
their
go.
games to be standalone because they know, like, a majority of your friends that aren't professional gamblers, right, that just live in the Boston area, they're going to watch the Celtics no matter what, right? It could be
Right.
a primetime game like Bucks versus Lakers, right? And they're going to watch the Celtics local. So that's because of TNT. I'm a little disappointed in myself because, me and you are team watch the games, right? And it was just hard to keep track of everything that was going on. Definitely felt a little bit overwhelmed, but we made it through it. I got out of there with a 2-in-1 day on the spreadsheet for Run Pure Bets members. Did you know which one caught me up, JSU? Was losing Jimmy Butler in that Miami game. How did you think that turned out? Well, actually, you know what? We'll get into that because Miami's on our card tonight. So why don't we just jump into tonight? But that'll be the featured game of the evening. Let's start with the Raptors and the 76ers. The Raptors down to 2.5 here. Both teams on a 3-game losing streak. We know how bad the Sixers have been. They've been money in DFS, right? But rough if you're just a normal Philadelphia fan running out that lineup here. Tobias Harris might be back tonight. My feeling on that is I would worry about, number one, his minutes and his ability to contribute, with Doc Rivers stating that it wasn't just an asymptomatic case of COVID. He definitely was feeling it, wondering how fast it'll take him to get back up to speed. That being said, this is such an interesting spot. The Sixers have been fighting. At what point, though, do these? I mean, these guys are reserves for a reason, and they've been playing like starters. And Tyrese Maxey's been playing like a star. Wonder how many nights they can keep it up. I like the Raptors here. I don't love it. I think if this is a 13-game slate like last time, it'd be easy to cross off. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this game isn't a cross off here. Not on a 3-game slate. We're definitely going to be looking to it. I even think from a bet side, I kind of like the Raptors here.
Mm-hmm.
The Philadelphia's held their own right spread with this team they've rolled out here, but I think Toronto being the dog here, I kind of like the dog in this spot, getting the 3 points against the Philly team that whether Tobias is in or out, honestly, doesn't matter to me because I have a feeling that he's not full. He's not going to be like full strength. The way Doc Rivers was talking about him when he got the COVID in the first place, I forget the exact quotes, but it was something along the lines of, some guys have gotten this and felt fine the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
That's not Tobias.
Right.
So when he's like, that's not Tobias, that tells me he got hit pretty hard. Glad he's okay. Glad he's obviously close to he is it for sure he's even coming back tonight? He's
No.
like questionable still,
Yeah,
right?
it's just every other night when we pulled up the injury report, right? He was out,
He
red,
was
no
out.
question about it at all. So they've changed his status to questionable along with Seth Curry.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so I mean that news kind of doesn't what does that news do for you? Like if both those guys were ruled in spread, does anything change for you here?
no, I mean I like the Raptors and I bet them. I just didn't feel like giving it out to all the members just because I feel like I'm gonna have a big edge tomorrow night, and I don't love this spot. I could easily see them laying an egg. So almost same situation last night. I thought they would do well against the Celtics. I thought they matched up well the way that team is, and they got stomped. So a little bit of concern there, but they have been okay on the back to backs.
One thing I didn't like spread was the fact that it's just Siakam's second game and
Mm-hmm.
just throwing him in there. And it takes a while, like chemistry wise, like especially with Scotty Barnes, Precious Achiuwa. They got some new pieces on that Toronto team that Siakam's really hasn't gotten to play with. And these are guys that get pretty decent minutes. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And Siakam hasn't gotten a chance to play with all of these guys. Obviously, he's played with Van Fleet and he's played with OG. Not talking about them, but others that are getting minutes for this Raptors team that Siakam really hasn't gotten a chance to play with a lot and build some chemistry. I kind of like it more that him resting. Give me Scotty Barnes and OG and Van Fleet. I'll take those guys against this Philadelphia team. As good as they've held their own, I still think Toronto honestly is the better team without Joel Embiid, and I'm getting points for that because the game's in Philly. Like I'll take my chances here. Side note, I remember it might have been on this show last year when I said Tyrese Maxey, give me him over Ben Simmons. He should be starting. I said that on this show. This is what I'm talking. This kid is a baller, man. Like this kid is. He looks good, and he looks like he's not afraid of the moment either. Like last game, he was the man in that game. I loved seeing it. This is what Philadelphia needs, and I think Doc Rivers made it a point while all these guys were out to get Maxey as much time with the ball in his hands as possible, playing him. Obviously, the minutes are super high as well, getting close to 40 minutes in all of his games. Like, that's what I think Doc Rivers really wanted, was to get him run in meaningful games, ball in his hands, making plays, and he's looked really good, man. It's like, obviously he's not the defender maybe Ben Simmons is, but he can hoop.
And he's not that bad on defense. I wouldn't even say he's a net negative defender. I mean, obviously Simmons is an elite defender, but I wouldn't say he's even the guy you attack, right? Like, I'd attack Shake when they're both on the floor at the same time.
Well, I think this year's spread, we've talked about this. It's a little easier for those guys to play defense the way the league is right now. I'm saying better. Though it's easier for them. Like, did you hear Jamal Crawford's comments about like wishing he was playing with these rules, how they are constructed? Because he's like, when I was playing, defense was so important that I'd have to get subbed out a lot of times. Whereas now, like if these were the rules, I could have played. You know what I mean? I could have played like 35 minutes a game because they wouldn't have had to sub me out for defensive purposes. That's what he was saying, and it like clicked in my head. I'm like, he is so right. Like that makes so much sense, because that was the knock on some of those guys. Like Jamal Crawford was like, man, when he's giving you 25 off the bench, it's great, but he still hurts you on the defensive end. So that's why even in good games, he wouldn't get the monster like 35 plus minutes that he was talking about. And he's like, man, now with these rules, I could have played 35. Like I could have played without getting subbed out for defensive purposes. So I think it's a little easier for guys like Maxey to defend. But at the same time, you're right. He's not a bad defender either. I don't think he's a negative defender for sure. I think he's a pretty solid defender. And clearly he's getting better. Like his game is progressed from last year.
I love the way they're calling the game. It's the spirit of the game. The idea is you can't shoot and I can't just rip your arm off. It's not that if there's any sort of contact at all while you have the ball that you get to go to the free throw line. I want to see exciting plays. I want to see transition. I don't want to see officials blowing their whistle and people at the free throw line. So I hope they keep it, man. I hope this isn't one of those 2-week things that they switch. And I hope the NFL's watching too, because I think they could do for keeping some of those flags in their pocket as well.
Yeah, well, we all know, Spread, the NFL, maybe they'll change that up for like a couple weeks, but it always goes back to, those refs, they got a lot of power, and I'm not going to say a lot about it. All I will say is I don't think it's them deciding. I think it's someone else is pulling the strings above a little bit for some of these calls. I mean, we got refs hip checking players.
That was ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. Again, I don't want to go too far into that because I could sink my teeth right into it. But when have you seen that? Like, what are you doing? Hip checking a player? Like, and if a player ever touched a ref, I mean, he's out and he's suspended and he's fined. All this stuff, and a ref can hip check a guy and just nothing. I don't blame him for being pissed, and I don't blame him for calling the ref out like he did in the post-game comments. I would have done it too.
Yeah, finally the NBA ahead of something in the NFL, and that's how to call these games. So let's circle back to this game. Tyrese Maxey, we sung his praises. 6,800, the price is going up, but I say he's still worth the investment. Is he going to be in a lot of lineups tonight? And what other 76ers should we be targeting?
Yeah, I love, honestly, the one thing that, like, I want more games each slate, but I do like the strategy with these 3-game slates. And I do think, one, Tyrese Maxey should be in play, whether Tobias Harris is in or he's out, with the way he's been playing. Because, again, I don't think we're getting a full Tobias Harris workload anyway. So ball's going to be in Maxey's hands a lot still. Yes, he should be popular. I do like that the pricing, though. He's right next to Kyle Lowry. He's right next to some other guys we're going to talk about later, that these guys are going to be popular. And I'll tell you, Spread, when you're talking about, even from a DFS side, like, oh, I could pay $100 more and get Kyle Lowry. I mean, how many people aren't clicking Kyle Lowry over, especially with no Jimmy Butler? He just got ruled out. How many people are doing that over Tyrese Maxey? So, yeah, you could play them both. We'll get into that, though, where there's a lot of good guard play, I think, on this slate. And it's going to be interesting how ownership shakes out, how people deal with these price tags. Because what happens is in DFS, people see the value in some of these price tags from some of these players. So they're like, oh, okay, Philly, last slate, Philly's like 8 bodies. They got like 8 or 9 guys. Yeah, Doc said he was going to play 10. That was bullshit. And, they're like, okay, well, these guys are all way too cheap. Now we're starting to see Drummond at $9K on FanDuel. We're starting to see Drummond at 8 something on DraftKings and Maxey at $7K. And we're like, okay, now we got to make a decision, Spread. This is where I love DFS, because people complain about the tougher price. I love when the pricing's tougher. I love when it's just like straight obvious. And what's going to happen, Spread, is the Miami players, those guys are going to be like what the Philly players were last night or 2 nights ago, whatever it was, because their prices are egregious on all levels. And it's gonna make the Philly players, I think, a little lower owned. And with we don't know about obviously Seth and Tobias. If 1 or 2 of them were to play, that's going to lower the ownership on the Sixers too. So just things for people to think about. But I do think Miami is much more popular tonight than Philly, and you'll see it in those contests. So, playing a Maxey over a Kyle Lowry, I know it sounds crazy, but it's not as crazy as you think. Again, you can play them both, but I do think it pulls ownership from him.
All right, well, talk to me about Andre Drummond. And yesterday I watched the final countdown, and Kay Fallick was making a good point about, I think it was Kay Fallick, that people get used to paying a certain amount and then they go up and they still have value, but because you're used to paying $6K, now you don't want to pay $8.6. I mean, and you can tell me if you disagree. I would say Drummond is pretty close to good for at least 45, right? And at 8K, he seems like a pretty safe play. Will people pivot off him? And are you looking for this, or did DraftKings finally get you to the point where you're like, nope, the value's gone, let me move on? That was a fun little Drummond train, and I've got a new guy to ride.
Well, so here's the thing on DraftKings, and FanDuel now, obviously, because of the multi-eligibility. You can play Drummond and Bam. So if it was like on FanDuel in years past, like let's say if they were both center only eligible, yeah, that would pull ownership from one guy. And yes, I do think Bam would see more ownership. But on both these sites, you can play them both now. So I do think people will play Drummond because he's got a real nice built-in floor, right? Like the dude is just sucking up all the rebounds. He's getting you double-digit points nightly. He's getting steals and blocks. Like he's doing everything. So I do think people are going to still play him. Now, will he be 80% owned in tournament Spread, even on a 3-game slate? I don't think so. Not now, because like you said, the pricing has adjusted, but I still think he's going to be high owned, and rightly so. I wish it was on a different slate, honestly, Spread. I wish we got these Philly guys on a slate that was like 8 or 9 games, because then I think their ownership would be much, much lower. Right. A lot of these guys, especially with Miami at their price tags on the same slate. That's where I would have loved to get it. Obviously, we get a 3-gamer. So you just look at the center pool. It's like, okay, Drummond at 8.6, Sabonis is 9.1, Rudy Gobert, who we've talked about before, he's 8K, Miles Turner 7K, and then it drops to Zubac at 5.1. Like, and Bam, I forgot Bam, 7.4. like, come on, spread. Like, we really have like 4 centers to pick from, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, you could go to a cheap Achua. You know, he's got a tough matchup. You could go to him at 4-2, I guess. So he's in play. But after that, it's like, who are you playing? You're not going to play Zubac, not in this spot. I just don't see anyone else. So really and truly, it's like 4 or 5 guys, and I can play 2 of them. So
Right.
is the ownership going to be lower than in past slates? Yes. Will he still have high ownership, though? I believe so.
Anyone you like on the Toronto side?
Yeah, man. OG in this spot, no Siakam. We all know that pretty much the offense has been flowing through him. He's gotten up to 8K. Now we get a 3-game slate where I'm going to like some of these Philly guys. I'm going to want to play some Raptors. I think him and Scotty Barnes are my 2 favorites.
Okay.
I think you can play them both on this slate together. Obviously, you can go with Fred VanVleet. He's a little more expensive, though. I do like the cheaper price tags for OG and Scotty. And then Achua, obviously, at 4.2. I don't know how much I'll have of him, but he's at least going to be in play as long as he gets the start with no Siakam out. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. But definitely this game is going to be a game I'm going to look to in my lineups for sure.
All right. Let's move on to the Indiana Pacers, who disappointed a lot of people that I know last night, falling short against the Nuggets. That one screams stay away to me because I could have easily seen it going away. I could easily see, shorthanded Denver getting blown out. But the situation like Philly, all these other guys excited to get shots, excited to get opportunities, right? Trying to increase their role. Hey, if I do good, maybe I'll go from 15 minutes to 24 minutes, 24 minutes to 30 minutes, right? So I thought this was a great spot for Denver. On a smaller slate, I might have forced to play, but it was so easy to stay away from. And of course, Indiana loses. Now everybody in the betting world is completely upset with them. And maybe because I stayed off and I'm feeling pretty neutral, right? I'm ready to jump in and take the Pacers here. I think this price is a little ridiculous, and I think it's just an overreaction to them unable to face the Denver team. They showed a lot of fight last night. I still think this is a fairly talented team, and I think they match up with Utah fairly well. With the 2 big guys, I think Sabonis can beat Gobert outside. Of course, then they can switch it up with Turner so they can give them different looks. Utah doesn't have the most athletic wings. I think that helps here with Indiana Pacers. And looking at the injury report, Karis LeVert's questionable, but I don't see Brogdon on there. So if Brogdon's in there, I mean, I like Indiana here. This line should be like 7. It's just because they look so bad against a shorthanded Denver team. Do you agree with me that Indiana's the right side here?
Yeah, well, I'm not a big fan of Indiana personally. Rick Carlisle comes in, and this team was playing fast last year, and he slowed them right down. Right, Fred? Mm-hmm. They're bottom half in pace right now, and then you got a Utah team that is, bottom 5, I think, in pace. So, yeah, you're probably right. They're probably the right side. I think LeVert plays here. It was a back-to-back. I could see them being like, okay, we got Brogdon back. Nuggets have nobody. Give LeVert the day off here. Let him play tomorrow, right? Just kind of being cautious with LeVert. So I do think he's going to play. That's just a guess. I don't know for sure, but it's just a guess. And then Brogdon had an illness. So he played last night and he looked fine to me. So he should be good to go, right? As long as, because it was an illness. So yeah. I would assume that if he played last night, he's good to go. It wasn't like an injury where they're trying to be cautious. So I do agree with you, though. Like, if LeVert plays, you're probably right. The spread might be a tad too high. But I don't think Indiana is good. This is honestly a game where I might just take the under. I kind of like the under in this spot. 2 slower teams. But, yeah, I'm staying away from the spread. Until we get LeVert confirmed in. But I'm just going to stay away from this game. I'm not in love with it. I'm not really in love with it from the DFS side either. Utah's not a team that I really love taking unless one of those guards get ruled out. Like, if we get news that Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, one of those key guys in the starting lineup gets ruled out, yeah, then I'll have interest in, the others that aren't. like Jordan Clarkson and Joe Ingles, those guys, because they're cheaper. But if we don't get that news, I'll probably just, if there's a value piece from here, maybe I could pull it. Maybe a Royce O'Neal who's cheap on DraftKings, and he's played pretty well last 3 games. But other than that, I don't love paying $7K for Miles Turner, flat-footed Miles Turner, as Big T says. You know, and then you got Sabonis at $9K. Yeah, no, not here. Rudy Gobert's actually, his price has gone down, and I've talked about this with you. I don't love him from a tournament side, but from a safe side, I feel like he's like a solid, safe type floor play here at 8K. But yeah, this isn't a game I'm going to be heavily on from a bets or DFS side, so I don't got a ton else to say. Can I just one thing I want to respond to someone in the chat?
Yeah, I was going to go through these.
Keith Gordon, Barnes won't pay off his price tag. So Keith, this just the reason why a couple of reasons why I like Scotty Barnes was, one, it's a 3-game slate. There's not as many options. If it was a full game slate, you're right. I probably would think I'm reaching at that price tag, maybe a little bit. But the other thing is, with Siakam in the last 2 games, Barnes has played 31 and 32 minutes. And before that, 38, 35, 37, 36, 39. There is something to the minutes with Siakam and Barnes kind of taking away from Barnes a little bit from the minute side. And when you bump that guy up an extra 5 minutes from what he's been getting, he becomes a little bit of a better play. So I don't know if you play with projections, but if you're projecting him, I would be projecting him for 35, 36 minutes and see what that does. I think he comes closer to paying off that price tag. But I do think he also gives you like a safe, secure at a forward position that's not very good. Like, unless you want to pay up, we'll talk about PG in a sec, but, you know, you want to pay up for PG, I'm cool with that, but there's no Jimmy Butler on this slate. He's out. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard's been out. He would be a forward. Ben Simmons has been out. LeVert is questionable. Maybe you could play him. But then Nick Batum, Bojan Bogdanovic, Farouk Korkmaz, Garrett. I'm just giving you examples of some of the forwards that you're picking from. I'm not like trying to come at you. I'm trying to explain my thought process in the Scotty Barnes play itself. And that's kind of how I've led to, he might be like a decent play with a guy who has seems like a pretty solid floor, but also has a ceiling with high minutes and minutes that I think go up with no Siakam. So that's kind of where I'm looking at it. So yeah, I just wanted to explain it.
That was a good breakdown. Yeah, and I don't think he thinks you're going off you. He throws it in the chat so we can get our thoughts about it. And the only positive I'd say for this smaller slate, JSU, is we can spend plenty of time on anything, right? Like yesterday, Hoop and I were, you know, we had our pedal to the metal because we didn't want to keep everyone here for too long. But the 3-game slate, we can really go into some of this stuff. So I want to show something that that I think kind of illustrates my point a bit. You know, Josh Gillum, I think he makes a good point. Yeah, you wait on LeVert. I think that is helpful. But here's Jake. He doesn't believe in the Pacers offense. Our guy, Pocket QB Lamar Jackson, he says Indiana's a cross-off team. I assume because this came in while we were talking about Indiana, he says fade. Jake again says Jazz have too many weapons, right? But if you go like how you guys do on DFS, right? Well, I know there's guys that win without even turning on the games tonight, right? They're watching Disney with their daughters because they ran their projections and they're using the models, right?
That's like 75% of the people spread.
Right.
Which I'm not hating on them for.
Yeah.
I get it. People have families, they got kids, you know, whatever. I'm just saying though, that is like, yeah, that's a big chunk.
I'm saying let's take that approach to this game, right? And let's just take out how disappointed we were in Indiana last night, how they haven't lived up to expectations, and just run the numbers. It's not going to put you that Utah is that much better than the Indiana Pacers, right? This number, to me, is like a New Orleans Pelicans number, right? Or Orlando Magic, or a truly bad basketball team, right? This is a team full of all-stars coming off a loss. You don't think they heard it as well? I mean, I don't expect them to lay down and lay an egg here. Am I going to play the money line? No, but I just think it's too many points, and I think that the line is getting moved because of the public perception, like the chat. And hey, I could be wrong, and they lose by 20, and you guys can show up and take the victory lap. tomorrow. So thank you guys for all the comments. And there's so much going on while we were talking about that. I missed some of them, but I will try and read them all. Yeah, what's up?
Can I just say one thing though about this game? One thing I feel when watching Indiana, and I get what people are saying in the chat. One thing I feel though, and I don't know if you've gotten the same way, is I feel like the players are trying to adjust to Carlisle and what he's trying to put in for this team. Mm-hmm. And because it's different than how they played last year. I talked about the pace a little bit. I think Carlisle is trying to do some different things, and I just don't know if it's not gelling with the players yet. Maybe you could say it's because LeVert hasn't really played that much. Brogdon's been in and out. Maybe that has something to do with it too. Mm-hmm. Possible, but that's kind of what I see when I look at this Indiana team is, they might just not be fully bought in yet to Carlisle and what he's trying to put in. Might be wrong, might not. I love Carlisle as a coach. I think he's a great coach. I think he's shown that clearly over time in Dallas. I think over time he will get this team better. But right now, this team is dog shit. Like that, let's just be real. This team is not good. They haven't played good. I could go to a bunch of games where they've been in the lead and had big leads on teams and let bad teams come back and have no business coming back after being down like 20 and make it a game. Like it's happened to Indiana this year. I've talked about it on the Final Countdown a ton. They're a team that I do like to target opponents against. So I get it, but at the same time, I think Utah right now constructed is just chemistry-wise, they're just way better. They're way ahead of what Indiana is, though. I agree with you, though. Talent-wise, you want to talk about talent. Okay, the Pacers with LeVert, they got a ton of talent on that team. I got you there.
Well, I agree with what you said. I mean, to sum up like what I think you're saying here, I think that Carlisle's a great leader, and I don't know if the system fits the team. I thought Bjorkgren had a great system. I just don't think he was a very good leader, and that was the issue. But I like the way the offense looked a lot better last year. The motion offense they were trying to run, it looked a little more modern. I'm a little worried that, Carlisle's a great leader. I'm a little worried this system might be a little outdated. But the rules are coming back. So, hey, it's been 12 games. It's a new team. Let's give it time to play out. So
that's exactly what I'm saying, Spread. You hit it on the head. We got a little news just real quick. Seth Curry remains questionable. Okay. Tobias Harris, though, will play. Nothing on minutes limit or anything like that. It just says Tobias Harris will play tonight. So there you go. It's confirmed at least. Does that change anything for you, Spread?
Not on the bet side. I think that might. Do you take any pieces out of DFS a little bit? Like, I mean, now you're not shoving in Korkmaz or Niang, right? They're way less.
What this does, just so people understand, this is going to lower the ownership on a lot of Sixers here. Yeah. A lot of them. So, price tags have the sites have now adjusted with the price tags for most of the Sixers guys, and you've got a player coming back who is a starter. He's not just like a bench or role player, right, Spread? He's a starter. He's probably the second best player on the team outside of Embiid. Right. So, depending on the role, hopefully we get some quotes from Doc saying like,
can we even believe Doc though? I don't trust Doc.
You know what? I would believe him if he said like, we're not going to push Tobias first game back.
Okay,
I'll
believe that. Okay,
I'll give you that. But only because of his comments saying how actually sick he was when he got this. So that's the only reason why I believe that.
When he said he was going to play 10 men last night, I'm rolling my eyes like, right, Doc.
Bullshit, by the way.
I know. I heard you guys on the Final Countdown, and it was the Nuggets when you were actually arguing about a lot. But it was like, how deep are these rotations going to go? So let's move into the last game, and you got to let me go ahead and complain a little bit because I was on pace for a 3-0 night. And then Jimmy Butler sprains his ankle. So disappointed. I really think that they win that game and they cover the spread. And I'll tell you what, I even felt like, even when he went out, I was like, I don't care. I'm still going to cover this. This team is so good. And like the basketball IQ of Kyle Lowry is so much higher than Russell Westbrook, and that even played out. I felt the turning point was when Duncan Robinson missed that layup, and I don't want to go Joel Embiid when he singled out the Ben Simmons play, right? But I kind of felt it right there. I said, oh, when he missed that, I said, oh, I might not cover this. And they were still up by 9 at that point, I think. But, so a tough loss for me. But, hey, that's what happens when you're gambling on the NBA. The injury hurt. Butler is out again tonight, and the market has reacted to the news. This was 3 because I did an article about it, and it was 3 when I sent it off at 6 in the morning. Now at noon Pacific time, it is 5.5. I think it's a little market news. I think it's a little injury news mixed in. I do think the market is pushing it this way as well, just because I think the Clippers are a team that matches up with Miami fairly well. They're young and athletic. I felt that Lakers were going to look slow next to Miami, and I felt that they did for 3 quarters. I think this is a little better matchup here. But let's cap it at 3. I love the Clippers. At 5.5, man. Now it's getting a little too high. Why don't we cap it at 5.5 and you give me your thoughts?
Yeah, well, first off, that game last night, man, that's a rough beat. 1, with Jimmy Butler going out. 2, obviously, Miami still could have just easily taken care of business, even without Jimmy. I thought they were going to, honestly, watching that game. So that's a rough spot. But something that nobody's talking about, Russell Westbrook's low basketball IQ at the end of games was just astonishing. So Russell Westbrook, 2 drives in a row where the guy gets into the middle, the paint, the mid-range, and hits a mid-range jumper, just nothing but net, to tie the game back up with like a minute and a half left. This all happened. And then he drives again to the paint, gets in the teeth of the defense, does a little spin move and a little like funny shot for another, to tie the game up again. Right. And this is in the fourth quarter, with all happening with like a minute and a half left. He's doing this. So he's trading shots to keep this game for the Lakers. And then with 23 seconds left, after a timeout, I'm pretty sure spread, they come out and the play
why do you call a timeout for that play?
The play is, this is the play, right? So the play didn't even work. 1, they sent 2 small screeners to try and get someone switched. Try and get a small switch on Russell, because I think they had Tucker. Not 100% sure, but I think Tucker. They had him on there. And they were trying to get a small switch on. Didn't work. Terribly executed one. So that didn't work. And then he's dribbling to the side, and instead of attacking like he's been doing with success, to take a mid-range jumper even, as opposed to he takes a 3. What?
And a tie game. You only need 2 points.
Game, you don't you need 2. Get a foul. Attack. Yeah. PJ Tucker. I know PJ Tucker is known for defense, but he's not a flyer.
Like 37 years old.
He's 37 years old. Russell Westbrook is quick, athletic, explosive. What are you doing, Russ? I'm sorry. I know he's fun to watch. I love listening to his pressers when he gives the shit right back to the media when they ask him dumb questions. I'm a fan of Russell Westbrook. I really actually am. But the low basketball IQ is just glaring at the end of games. That was awful to watch. Terrible. As a fan of Russell Westbrook, he definitely knows. He had to be kicking himself after. This is where I go back to, Rondo needs to take Russell Westbrook by the ear and just teach him. Rondo is so smart. In all situations, Rondo knows exactly where to be, what to do. Look at AD. When Rondo's on the floor with AD is a different player. Rondo's throwing up lobs, and AD's going, forward, back, and jumping lobs from the side of 3-point line, and Rondo's just throwing balls up to the other side of the rim for AD for lobs. We don't see that with Westbrook. There's no actual chemistry with those guys. It's just pass him the ball down on the block, or it's hit him when he's wide open in a zone in the middle of the defense at the free throw line. There is no actual chemistry with those guys. And it's just, that's another thing that's going to screw these Lakers if Russell Westbrook doesn't change it. Hopefully he does. It's early in the season, don't want to go too much more, but Westbrook that was terrible to watch, and no one talks about it. Obviously, three,
Yeah.
you're down, you're tied. You take a three, and you have 23 seconds left. Terrible.
I couldn't believe that either. So, the Lakers are my least favorite team as a Sacramento Kings fan, but I took a couple positives away from that team. Avery Bradley's defense is still really good. I think that he found, I'm watching that game and I'm saying he might close in the end of the season when these games matter. He might make his way into the starting five. Kent Bazemore, I think, also is a nice defensive piece that they can use in reserve. I didn't feel like his minutes were that bad. I felt that they looked, I thought Miami was going to be so much faster, but against those lineups.
Once LeBron comes back too, he's going to make those guys look even better, right, Spread?
Of course, yeah.
So that's another thing that's going the Lakers' way. I agree with Josh in the chat. He says Monk was a great signing. I think Monk was a really, really good signing for that team. And again, another player, when LeBron's back and he's fully healthy, he's going to make Monk look better too. So the Wayne Ellingtons, the Monks, the Kent Bazemores, the Avery Bradleys, those guys will look a lot better when LeBron's in there getting them wide open looks. So Russell Westbrook's that's not his real game, right, Spread? Like, he just wants to attack. Like, he wants to attack and attack. But for some reason, last game, when the game's on the line, he said, screw attacking. I'm just going to jack up a three. That makes sense.
It was just terrible.
So this game, Spread, I don't know how we don't, God, after last night, just lean the Clippers. They're probably the better team here. They match up nice with Miami. I think I lean the Clippers in this spot.
You say don't worry about that 2.5, and I'm just worried. I'm almost feeling like a K Fallick here, where it's like I had it at 3 this morning, and I don't want to get it at 5.5.
Yeah, so. I don't know. This is a tough game,
I think it's a tough
Miami
game too.
Coming off the spot last night in overtime. No Jimmy tonight. Mm-hmm. Can they pull it out twice in a row against a good Clippers team too? Like, Clippers they've been good this year, man. He's been way better than I thought he was going to be. Like, he's legit. I don't know. You like the Heat here, though. I can tell. You want that.
Well, no. I mean, I already have a Clippers ticket at -3, and I didn't love it, so I didn't give it out because I was worried that I was worried that I was a little still emotional from the loss last night. That I was almost like flip flopping on my view of the team. So I said I'll make it a personal play. I'll leave it alone. I've already looked at the card tomorrow, so I know I'm going to have great value for the Run Pure Bets members tomorrow night. So rather than force this tonight, I left our spreadsheet blank on this game. But yeah, that line movement made me just I'm not sure. Let's talk about DFS, because you did mention that this is where the value is, right? And I'm pulling it up. The first thing that jumped out to me is Duncan Robinson at 3,800. Talk to me about him and maybe some other players you might want to roster.
Yeah, Duncan Robinson is really cheap. He's gotten better. The team actually sets up a lot of their plays through Duncan Robinson running around trying to get open looks for three, and he's definitely a weapon. Like, he can hit shots. The problem is he doesn't always do anything else, right? He's like a 3-point shooter who isn't like a very good rebounder. He's gotten better defensively. He's still not a great defensive player. I still think he struggles to move his feet at times and gets lazy, but he's definitely gotten better. Tyler Hero, though, is I think the true value, because he is the star that is breaking out this year. And it is clear, that dude, when the game was on the line last night, he was taking shots, Spread.
Yeah.
He was taking shots in that fourth quarter to keep the game close. That shot where he was going right and he was kind of falling towards the right and he was moving in the middle and he just jumped up and hit it. That was a money shot right there. You can tell he wants the ball. He wants those situations. And I think he's him and Bam have the two best price tags, in my opinion, on DraftKings.
So if I could afford both, right? So I'm
Bam
not worried
ridiculous.
about money. Would you like Tyler Hero? Not even worried about money. Just who will get more points, Tyler Hero or Kyle Lowry? Because I can afford both. Tough question, huh?
That's close. Yeah, the problem is Kyle Lowry is like he might not be the man of that team because I do think
Uh-huh.
it's Tyler Hero with Jimmy
Yeah.
Butler out, but he's the guy who does a little of everything, and those are the guys for fantasy that you want. I'm gonna still say though, I like Tyler Hero. I like him and Bam the most, and
All
then I
right.
would go Kyle Lowry. I'll
PJ
still go
Tucker
there.
3,100. Is that worth a punt, or is there no way he gets there?
I mean, he's 3,100. There's definitely a path to him getting there. I hate playing guys like PJ Tucker. I try never to, even on 3-game slates, guys like Danny
Hmm.
Green, PJ Tucker, I struggle to play with.
Why is that? Just because there's no offense except for the other people passing him the ball?
No, because like really and truly, what are they going to hit in these scenarios? Like one out of every 10 times. Like it's just they don't do enough. Like they're not that good. They're old. They're over the hill.
Okay.
There's other younger, better players, and yeah, I mean, I want to play. I'll always play like the younger guy, if I can, over someone like that. But I get it. If Morris is out too, PJ Tucker's gonna slide into another 30 plus minutes tonight, probably.
All right. Well, the good thing about this 3-game slate is normally, what we do at this time of day is completely irrelevant. But I think we've got a majority of the news, and there's actually a pretty good chance that we can build a little core right now. And I think the people still could be able to use it and have a great chance tonight. So, with that being said, who are like 4 players that you would start with? And guys, always the disclaimer: this is not a JSU's official core. To get the official core, that is done after all the news has been released. You have to become a member of runpuresports.com. Head on over to the website, use the promo code GetBets. You'll get access to my plays and all the other great handicappers as well. But this is a preliminary core just to give you an idea of what he's thinking about the slate and also help you just understand the thought process that goes in to building these cores. So take it away, JSU.
Yeah, so I'm not going to cop out and give 4 Miami guys. I won't do
Okay.
that to the people. I'm going to put Tyler Hero in there because I already put my stamp of approval on him
All
as
right.
the top play there, and I'll put Bam. All right, so we're going to go Tyler Hero and Bam. I'll give 2 Miami guys in the core because there should be Miami on this. You should be playing some Miami on this slate.
Okay.
So after this is where it gets interesting because do I want to go to Philly now with the Tobias Harris news? I kind of still do.
Mm-hmm.
Or do I want to go to the Clip side? Those are where I'm looking at. I want to play Maxi. 6.8K. I think people are going to start to come off of Maxi. And if people are going to come off, then I want to stay on. So
Okay.
I'm going to go Maxi. And then my other play, I mean, I already talked about this guy, but we'll throw him in the core here. Scotty Barnes. I think he's safe.
All right.
I think he's got a ceiling too, but I think he's got a safe, nice floor, and I think the minutes go back up, which is the real reason why I think he's a solid play tonight. Is I think if we can get Scotty Barnes playing 35, 38 to 38 minutes as opposed to 31, 32 minutes, I think it's a lot even more of a safer play. And again, like I said, safe, but a guy who's got upside. All right, that's what we want for tournaments. Forward position's not that great. We'll go the mid tier route for this core. I like the mid tier route here, but yeah, I think this is a good starting point for people. Gives you a nice mix to finish it off.
All right. Well, thank you for that. So the core: Tyrese Maxey, Tyler Hero, Scotty Barnes, and Bam Adebayo. With that, we'll move to best bets. I'll start. I'm going to go ahead and play that Toronto at 3.5 here. It's now 3.5. I just do like this team, and I think that the Philly Magic's got to wear out at some point, right? I mean, these guys have been playing above their heads for the last couple nights. I think this might be the night that it runs out. And with Toronto on a losing streak, and we do expect a better chemistry because this team has played better without Siakam out. They are struggling to integrate him. And if you think about it, it's because he plays the position of their strength, right? Because when he comes back in, you're taking away good possessions that you like. You like the Barnes possessions. You like the Anunoby usage, right? So you're taking away usage from already an area of strength. So I do like Toronto here tonight, and I hope I didn't steal your pick. I just want to give you a couple seconds to think.
Oh,
since you're
you
just on the
stole it.
core.
You did stole
Did
it.
I?
We're going
Let's just go with one on a 3-game
We're
slate.
going 2 for 2 here
Okay.
on this crappy 3-game betting card, which I think it is kind of crappy. This is the
is.
best bet, I think. Toronto. Yeah, I like them. Give me the 3.5. I'll run with it and take my shot. So.
Yeah, I think it's a tough game to bet, and there's a lot of other stuff going on. Sorry, I can't keep my headphones in today for some reason.
That's all right.
But there's nothing wrong with just waiting for tomorrow. There's so much stuff going on in sports. You can afford to leave your bankroll on the sideline for one night. And in fact, I think that if you are excited, you guys have a great show coming up about the Thursday night football game, JSU, right? Because you're going to log off here and go there. So why don't you tell the people what kind of content Run Pure Sports is producing for the rest of the day?
Yeah, so we got a showdown show. Me, Big T, and Tambo do subscribers only show. So if you aren't a subscriber, you want to be a subscriber, you want to check out the show for the showdown slate tonight for NFL, you can use the code RPS Heater 25, get you 25% off your first month's payment, as long as it's a monthly subscription to Run Pure Sports. And you can check us out. And then we got all the content you're going to want for showdown tonight. You know, Big T's got his player pool. Tambo's got his slate attack. We've got a playbook, core plays, myself, guys like K Falick, Rubio Dimes, Big T, all got cores for this slate. Hoop and Mangone, Entitled, do the cash stuff. So they'll have the cash core out for you. So yeah, we got all that for NFL. NBA, obviously, same deal. Got the same stuff. So check it out, everything over there. Yeah, we're going to have full NBA, NFL. And like Spread said, from a betting side, it's like, this isn't the best card to be hammering out, in my opinion, a bunch of bets. You could place one bet, but like, this is a nice night to play a nice little 3-game NBA DFS slate. You know, get in the DK prize pools and contests and play a little DFS. I mean, that's where I like the 3-game slates. I honestly think like there's a massive edge. I try not to like. I think people get it confused. Just because we had a 3-game slate last, I can kind of talk about this real quick before we get off Spread. But so last, what was it, Tuesday? So 2 slates ago, we had a 3-game slate. And I remember being in the RPS chat right after lock. And I like Paul George. I like Paul George as a pivot off of Giannis. And one of my ideas coming from that slate was like, okay, if I build the team like everyone else, it's going to have 3 or 4 Philly guys, and it's going to have Giannis and either Bobby Portis or Drew Holiday probably. So like 2 of the 3, but definitely Giannis, because there was so much value on the slate with the Philly guys. It was easy to play Giannis. So I said, I'm going to play Paul George, right, instead of Giannis. But I can still play the build that everyone's going to play, but literally just make this little pivot, right, Spread?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I remember being in there right after, and there were people like, how is Giannis only 42% on this 3-game slate? And they're laughing. I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, this is where I don't think people understand that they're going to have the same build as everyone else. And listen, if you want to come in 10th, you want to come in 5th, you want to tie for 1st, that's fine. In DFS, I have no problem with it. If that's what you want to do, you can play the same build as everyone else, and you can tie for 1st. You can not have a chance at 1st, but maybe you come in 2nd or 4th or 5th. That's totally fine. I made the conscious decision to, and even though I knew Giannis was probably the better play, and if this scenario played out 10 times, Giannis probably wins the more than half of the 10 times over PG, because I'm just talking about literally a straight up, like, I played PG over Giannis, right? I had the money to play Giannis, and I still played PG. You get what I'm saying, Spread? So, like, I could have played Giannis, but I knew, like, if I can get the one time PG outscores Giannis, or even close to it, I could ship 1st place. I was in that exact scenario, and obviously I didn't ship. Paul George got his 4th foul, and they pulled him with like 5.5 or 6 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. I think that kind of hurt me. He landed with 9 rebounds. If he got his 10th, he gets the bonus there, and he probably lost a few minutes on the floor. So it definitely hurt his probably fantasy outcome at the end of the day. But I looked at it and I'm like, okay, if I played Giannis, I wouldn't have won 1st.
Right.
I would have won. I would have been in third. I wouldn't have won first, though. Like my team, I would have had no chance at first. My Paul George team, I came in 15th, I think it was, in the 5-5-5 tournament. I was the only team in the top 20 with Paul George.
Right.
And I looked, every team had Giannis. So, and I only lost to, the next 10 by like a few points. So the theory and thought process, again, we talk about this, Tambo, actually, Toe Tag and Tambo, he does a great job. We do a review show for NFL, and he does a great job of talking about, process over results when it comes to DFS after each slate, where we really hammer our actual process and did we have the right process coming in, as opposed to just saying like what actually happened. Because at the end of the day, Giannis outscored PG, and I lost because of that, or I didn't ship because of that. But from a result or a thought process theory standpoint, I will still say that I was right on that slate to play Paul George over Giannis, not play the same build as everyone else if I wanted to win first, which I did. And that's the way I play tournaments. And I think that's the way on these 3-game slates, that's the way everyone should play tournaments. It shouldn't be, oh, this is the obvious build and I'm just going to jam it right in there. You jam it right in there, you're going to tie with a bunch of people. You might split, whatever. You're not going to win, though. So if you're playing like the $15 contest where you got 100,000 people in there, you got 100,000 lineups in there, you're never going to win doing that. So always, 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 you should be looking, how can I make one pivot? Because I think Miami's the nuts tonight, right? Like everyone thinks Miami's the nuts. So what can I do outside of Miami to make my team different from everyone else's? That's what you need to think about if you're like, I need to play Miami. Because you need to find some place to differentiate. And I don't think people think about it enough, and they don't think about after. What they'll do, Spread, is they'll say, I lost. I could have won if I played Giannis. And Spread, if I played Giannis, I win 40K. I win 40K. And I will still tell you that my process was still right. Even though in the end, I would have won more money than I won that night. I still won money, but I would have won more money. I've won 6 figures doing this multiple times on short slates, and I will do this, and I can lose the next 6 times and by the same rule, and I will still say it's the right move because my thought process on how to win first is the right thought process. And everyone will just say, you know what? I should have played Giannis. I'm going to just play Giannis next time. I was wrong. No, you weren't wrong. You had the right process. It just results-wise didn't get there. But keep that process because that's how you win.
All right. Well, I love to hear a little bit of theory, and I think that's the advantage of these 3-game slates, right? JSUs, we have time to go ahead and just get into some more general basic concepts, especially for, I'm a host that's pretty new to DFS. This is my second year doing this, as you guys have kind of shown me the way, and a lot of the viewers, well, who are betting, and maybe, right, we're real big on our gambling bankrolls, but hey, my DFS money's for fun,
Yeah.
I could lose every single tournament for the rest of the month, and I still get to have steak for breakfast and drive around my car. Everything's insured. So for some of us that really bet heavily, but we want to have some fun, it's a great feel to fill out these lineups. And I'll tell you what, and I was telling Travis this the other day too, I've learned so much more because you're digging in deeper, right? Before Donovan Mitchell was out, okay, let me subtract the Jazz 2 points and I just move on with my day. Now I'm learning, okay,
simple.
wait. Yeah. Well, hold on. Who's going to actually get this extra usage? I'm learning more in the rotations, and I think that it's made me. I was already pretty aware of role players' minutes and their importance to covering the spread, but now I'm really seeing who those contributors are and just allowing me to analyze. And I think those minutes are so crucial because I think so many people handicap the best 5, right? The closing 5 against each other, right? But a lot of times that's going to be a wash. And the spreads are going to come down to who won those reserve minutes. So understanding the reserves and who soaks up the usage so much more, I feel, has made me a better gambler. So I hope that you guys got something from that too. Jake the Degenerate, living up to his name with his comment. He says, no, we can't spread. We need action every day. And that was when I was saying maybe we should lay off the card. Well, Jake, we got you covered here at Run Pure Bets. I will be on the live show with the Sports Keg this evening. We're going live about 5 o'clock. we will be watching the NBA, the NFL, college football, college basketball. So we will make sure you have your action, Jake. So what you need to do, go ahead, like the video. Hey, we've been giving you an hour content on a three game slate. What other company can do that, right? Most of the shows I watched today were 17 minutes long, right? We're out here grinding for you. So go ahead, give us the like, share it with your friends, and then subscribe to the channel. You'll be notified when we go live, and we'll be sure to give you some in-game plays there. So JSU, I wanted to thank you very much for joining me, man. One thing I think that was smart, because I do like getting into these games a little deeper, having you on the day with the smaller slate, I think is cool, because I don't really have to worry if we want to spend 15 minutes on the Pacers and the Jazz, where normally that would be a no-no. So thank you very much for joining
I'm a talker,
us.
Spread. Sorry.
Well, because we're actually breaking it down. You're not just running a projection and saying, hey, Duarte says he's going to get 31 points in 32 minutes, so play him. I mean, some of the shows, that's all you're seeing, right?
Well, I mean,
literally just reading their projections off.
Because that's all they know. And so, right. Yeah, I mean, you can't hate on someone who that's what they know, and that's fine, but that's not where you're getting with when I come on, for sure.
Yeah,
so.
And we love it so much. So thank you very much, JSU. We will have you back next Thursday. Quick reminder, especially those on watching on the replay. JSU is the only day we don't go live at 3:30 Eastern, and that's to accommodate him so he can get in there and make sure he gives out those NFL winners for the rest of the Run Pure members. So every day 3:30 Eastern, except for Set Your Clocks on Thursday, we go at 2:30. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and Run Pure.